Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel, Study with Danny. My name is Daniel Autry and I'm excited to have you here. If you are new here, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you wouldn't miss any more videos. In this video, I'll try to teach you the basics of what you need in order to prepare for the IELTS exams in 1 week. Yes, 1 week, and to help you improve your score to a band score of 8.0 or above. I have personally taken both the IELTS academic test and the IELTS general training test. Yes. So in 2017, I used 1 week to prepare for the IELTS academic test and I achieved a band score of 8.0. Yes, you heard me right. I used 1 week and I was able to achieve a band score of 8.0. Then in 2018, with the general training test, I actually used 3 days. Yes, 3 days to achieve a band score of 8.0. This is because I had prior experience from the academic test. So if I was able to do this by following a systematic and methodological approach, I believe once I share them with you, you would also be able to achieve a band score of 8.0 or above without paying monies to any coaching institute or individual to prepare you for the IELTS test. Yes, you can do this at the comfort of your home and with ease. So without much ado, let's get right into this video. In order for us to understand what is required at the end of this video, we need to outline our objectives. So for this video, the main objectives are to understand the format of the IELTS test, to understand the types of questions for each section, and to be able to prepare for the IELTS test on our own at the comfort of our home, and to be confident in writing and passing the IELTS test successfully. Here's a brief introduction and background. The main question that people usually ask is, what is IELTS or what is IELTS? International English Language Testing System, which is abbreviated to be IELTS or IELTS, is an examination which is a gateway to enter English-speaking countries, either for higher education or for work. The universities and organizations in the UK, Australia, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, and even in the United States of America to some extent recognize IELTS and offer admission based on the IELTS test scores. It is the exam that tests your proficiency in the basics of English language in terms of listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And now here comes the second most asked question, which is, do you have to spend a fortune to crack the IELTS? You may probably have set your eyes on your dream university or country which you like to immigrate to. Now comes the big question. How should you prepare for the exams? Are you going to enroll yourself in a coaching institute or prepare at home or by yourself? Most people see this to be scary and they are mostly not confident enough to do it all by themselves. But here comes the good news. You do not need to pay huge sums of money towards coaching. Yes, you. Yes, you. I mean you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. You do not need to pay huge sums of money towards coaching. With methodological and systematic planning and with deep understanding of the structure and format of the IELTS test, you can prepare for the IELTS sitting at the comfort of your home. So now I believe you are currently asking yourself, how am I going to prepare for the IELTS at the comfort of my home without paying any coaching institute or person to prepare me for it? Anyone wanting to prepare at home can refer to the IELTS preparation guide that contains IELTS sample papers and strategies to help you prepare without going to any formal coaching institute. IELTS books and resources are also great preparation material popularly followed by many IELTS aspirants everywhere. Candidates can also refer to the IELTS official website for further study material. With all the materials and resources in your hand, I'll leave a few guidelines and tips in this video to help you prepare for the exams on your own. Do not worry about where to find the official IELTS website or the preparation guide. I'll leave a link in the description section of this video. I'll also leave a link to my GitHub repository where you can download all my preparation guide, my sample exams questions, and sample answers. Before you dive headfirst into answering the sample questions, you need to understand the IELTS exams format. So the test is divided into 4 sections, which are listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Each section requires a unique approach to achieve a decent band score of 8.0 or above. I'll take you through the test format for all these sections. First, let's understand the format of the listening test. Listening is supposed to be the easiest part of the four sections. The candidate will listen to four different recordings and answer 40 questions within 30 minutes. The tricky part is you have to listen and write the answers at the same time. So, how do you ace this part of the test? By listening and writing the answers at the same time. Well, it's not actually rocket science, but you have to practice, practice, practice. Take as many trial tests as possible before the actual exam date. Focusing is also really key because you have to listen to every single detail of the conversation being played out. Most often, losing the focus for a few seconds will fail you in answering one or two questions. This is where your score comes down. So you actually have to pay attention whilst the recording is being played because it is on autoplay. It will not be stopped for you to try and answer the questions. So once you miss an answer, just move on. It's gone. Forget about it. Because to get a decent score of maybe 9, 8.5, or 8, you need at least 35 correct answers. So once you miss one question or two questions, move on. Focus and try and answer the subsequent questions correctly because once you try and answer the previous question that you missed, you would not be paying attention to the video recorded. Hence, you miss the subsequent questions, increasing the number of possible wrong answers in your test. So, as an advice, you miss one question, move on. It's not the end of the world because at the end of the day, you need at least 35 correct answers out of 40 to get a band score of 8. Now, to understand the listening test format. So the listening test is divided into various sections, which are multiple choice questions where you choose the correct answer from many options. Matching, where you have to match words or items correctly. Labeling, where you have to label the part of an object for an example. Providing a summary, this is where the answer required is to be a brief form of a paragraph or a sentence. Sentence completion, where the answer required is to be in a simple sentence form, and short answer questions, where you are required to only give simple and straight answers, which are usually a number or a name. Now to understand the paper format of the listening test. There are four sections, each with 10 questions. Each section has a recording. The questions in the listening test are not always designed so that answers appear in the order in which they are heard. Some matching tasks involve recalling non-sequential information. This means they are not arranged in sequence or order. The first two sections deal with situations set in everyday social context. There is a conversation between two speakers in section 1. For example, a conversation about travel or cinema arrangements. And a monologue in section 2, for example, again, a speech about local facilities. The two final sections deal with situations set in educational and training context. In section 3, there is a conversation between two main speakers. For example, two university students in discussion, perhaps guided by a tutor. Section 4 is a monologue on an academic subject. The recordings are heard only once, so you really need to pay rapt attention to the recordings. And now to the reading test. The reading test contains three sections with 40 questions, and you need to answer them within 60 minutes. If listening is about practice, reading has to do with time management. So you have to time your trial test whilst practicing the reading sections. Section 3 is relatively tougher compared to 1 and 2. So take as little time as possible for the first two sections and get enough practice for the third section. You also have to hone your vocabulary skills, as time is the deciding factor here. You should know the meaning of complicated words to proceed quickly. So during your trial test, just make note of some complicated words and find out the meaning. So in case they appear in your passage whilst you are doing your reading test, you already understand it. That will help you to proceed quicker. Another important point is to take a glance at each question before you read the text. Make a note of keywords whilst you read, and this will help you answer your questions better and quicker. So what I personally did on my test date was I read the questions first, I made notes of some keywords, then I went to read the passage. So with the keynotes in mind from the questions, whilst reading, I also highlighted some keywords from the reading passages. This actually helped me to know which part of the passage my answers are coming from. For example, I know where question one's answer is from the reading test, and I know where question two's answer is located on the passage in the reading test. As you read along with the key notes that you've already built up, you have to build a gist of the paragraph in your mind. This will help you to understand the story background as it relates to your questions, because not everything in the passage has to be in the answer or has a relationship with your questions. So you have to build a gist of the paragraph in your mind to be able to understand the passage and where you need to get your answers from. Don't worry, once you follow these steps, I can guarantee you get a score of 35 or above, helping you to achieve a band score of 8 or above. Now to understand the reading test formats. The reading test is actually divided into different formats depending on the general and academic test. All the formats are as follows. Multiple choice questions where you choose the correct answer from many options. Matching where you have to match words or items correctly. True, false, or not given. I think this is self-explanatory. Sentence, note, table, diagram, or summary completions. This is where the answer required is to be in a simple sentence form and short answer questions just like the listening section. This is where you are required to only give simple and straight answers, which is usually a number, a name, or otherwise. The reading paper description. The reading section takes 1 hour to complete. Unlike the listening section, there is an extra time to transfer answers to your answer sheet. So I actually advise that candidates use pencils first so that they can easily make their corrections before transferring it with a pen to their answer sheet. Task types are the same for both IELTS academic and general training tests, but the test format and content is a little different. That is, the academic is slightly more challenging than the general training. For both tests, there are 3 sections with a total of 40 questions. Each section has one or more of the various question types, which I stated in the previous slide. Texts are taken from books, journals, magazines, and newspapers and have been written for a non-specialist audience. So don't worry about the fact that you think maybe they will take questions from maybe the mechanical engineering part, maybe the medical part, or let's say financial engineering part. Don't worry about that. The questions are for a non-specialist audience. So it is actually easier for you to understand whilst you read through the passage. All the topics are of general interest, so like I said, don't worry about it. Whilst you read the passage, you understand because it will be of general interest to you. And now, let's go through the speaking test. The speaking test of IELTS consists of a face-to-face interview with a certified examiner. The speaking test is the same for both the general and academic versions of IELTS. You can expect the test to last 11 to 14 minutes. The examiner will ask you questions about a variety of everyday topics such as work, stories, activities, people, and places. These topics have been chosen to be appropriate to test takers from all parts of the world, regardless of their age, gender, culture, or religion. You do not need special knowledge of any of the topics. The interview tests how well you can communicate in English. It does not test your knowledge. If you are asked a question about something you know little about, be honest and tell the examiner. Then continue answering the questions as best as you can. Understanding the speaking test format. Speaking test takes place either a few days before or after the other 3 models. This test requires you to wear your confidence on your sleeves for a smooth get through. The entire test lasts for about 15 minutes and comprises 3 sections, which are introduction, individual long term, and two-way conversation between examiner and examinee. Part 1. In Part 1, you have a 4 to 5 minute conversation with an IELTS examiner about yourself. The topics might include work, family, home life, and personal interest. For the Part 2 of the speaking test, you will be given a card with a topic. You will be given 1 minute to take notes on the topic, and you will be given a pencil to prepare your response. You will then speak on the topic for 2 minutes. So for this part of the question, when you are asked, you do not need to actually speak on something that you relate to. Rather, speak on something that can allow you to talk for 2 minutes, because 2 minutes isn't actually short. 2 minutes in the test will seem to you like a lifetime. So speak about something that you have a lot of things to say. It is better to actually overlap on your 2 minutes rather than you to stop speaking when your 2 minutes are not up. Now to the part 3 of the speaking test format. In part 3, you have a conversation with the IELTS examiner around the topic given in part 2, discussing it in more detail. Part 3 should take you approximately 4 to 5 minutes to complete, and here are a few tips that can help you ace this part of the speaking test. Start and end your sentences well. Do not repeat words or sentences. Practice at home by talking to your friends, family, or colleagues on various topics and ask them to give feedback. Construct simple, error-free sentences. Do not think using big English words or complicated sentences will score you big marks. Constructing simple, error-free sentences will as well score you the same marks. Get your pronunciation right. Again, you do not need to use big words that are difficult to pronounce. Use simple words that you can pronounce correctly. Now, let's talk about the writing test and its formats. Writing involves two sections, task 1 and task 2. Task 1 comprises analyzing a situation or analyzing a graph or chart or a diagram. In task 2, you will be required to write a long essay on a given topic. Writing tests your language skills in real sense. So here are a few tips in how to ace the writing test. First of all, you have to mentally plan your composition and give a thought on the structure of the essay before putting it on the paper. You have to divide your content into 4 to 5 short paragraphs. This will help you in counting the number of words that you've written in each paragraph, and you can also arrange the paragraphs to make a complete sense on its own. Start with an attractive introduction and end with meaningful conclusions. The introduction can be gotten from the question that will be asked. So just have a look at the question and try and rearrange it in your own words. Do not repeat the words. Use a lot of synonyms. So for example, you do not need to use the word verify throughout your whole essay. Instead of using verify, you may sometimes use words like confirm, validate, authenticate, and substantiate, which are also synonyms of the word. Now, understanding the writing test format. Task 1. The tasks are different for IELTS academic and general training as highlighted in the task types. For the IELTS academic, in task 1, you are asked to describe some visual information, which are graphs, tables, charts, or diagrams in their own words. You need to write 150 words minimum in about 20 minutes. In the IELTS general training, test takers are asked to respond to a situation, for example, by writing a letter, requesting information, or explaining a situation. Task 2. In task 2, you respond to a point of view or argument or problem. You need to write 250 words minimum in about 40 minutes. The writing test takes 1 hour to complete, and for this task, the format is the same for both the academic and general training test. So, by understanding the format of all the sections of the IELTS test and taking into consideration the few tips that I have given you, you can certainly prepare for IELTS at the comfort of your home. You get to save money and you get to save time. Now, hard work and smart work is the way to go. Now that we understand the format and the type of questions and answers you are required to give in the IELTS test, here's a weekly schedule on how to prepare for the IELTS. By following this schedule, you'll be confident to write the IELTS within 1 week. The schedule is actually based on the similarities between the sections and a 2 hour per day time commitment. Now for day 1, you see you have to just focus on the speaking test, committing only 2 hours. For day 2, mix up the writing and the speaking test so you do not get bored doing the same thing over and over and over again. This will help keep your interest peaked. Same as day 3 and day 4, since listening and reading is more or less about the same thing. One has to do with practice and one has to do with time management, but hand in hand, it will complement you for the entirety of the test. For day 5, focus on the task 2 of the writing test, since it requires you to write 450 words. Try at least 2 sample questions. Write at least 450 words for these 2 sample questions, and then read the answers to mark yourself or ask friends or colleagues to assess you on your writing skills. Finish up with the speaking on day 6, and for day 7, combine all the tests together and write a sample test. Time yourself and make sure that you are able to answer each question based on the durations attached to it. So, for example, if the writing test is required that you complete in 1 hour, after 1 hour, you need to stop. That is how you need to time yourself. You need to be disciplined at home so that you can follow the same style when you get to the test center. In preparing for your IELTS exams, you do not need to reach out to every available material on the internet and jumble them up together. When you mix what you are learning, it has a tendency to confuse you. Practice with prescribed sample test materials. You do not need to practice with 100 sample materials. Probably you need about 5, which will be enough for you to prepare for your IELTS exams. I will leave links in the description of this video so that you can go and download some sample materials. So, in order to achieve a band score of 8.0 and above within a week, you need to be pragmatic. Have a weekly schedule. The weekly schedule provided in this video can be tailored to suit everyone's needs. You also need to be conscientious. Thoroughly and diligently practice all learning materials and samples. You also have to learn time management. Manage your time by dedicating at least 2 hours a day to each section. If you can dedicate more, that's great, but at least 2 hours a day to each section. You also have to focus on the little details. Do not assume your English is better. I have friends who have been studying English for 20 to 25 years and they tend to score 7.0 or below. So read the answers and try and understand why those answers are correct. To sum it all up, you have to integrate everything that you've learned in this video. Understand the test formats, practice, 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 follow the weekly schedule, and focus on the little details, and you'll be fine. To be on a roadmap to success and to recap what we've learned in this video, 1. Understand what you need to do in each section of the IELTS test. 2. The types of questions asked and answers required needs to be understood. New videos will be uploaded in the future on how to answer the questions with tips. Yes, great tips. 3. You have to be able to prepare on your own. If you don't have access to learning materials, I'll leave links to my GitHub repository in the description of this video where you can download and study relevant IELTS materials. And finally, with this video and the weekly schedule plan, I believe you can study on your own without shelling huge sums of money to individuals or coaching institutes. Thank you very much for staying with me up to the end of this video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you have any question or topic that you'd like to learn later on, leave it down in the comment section and I'll try my best to attend to every comment. Click on the post notification bell icon so you'll be alerted whenever a new video is uploaded. Here at Study with Danny, we teach in order to learn and we learn in order to teach. Stay safe. Bye-bye.